Hello, welcome to yet again another episode of the Seamus Evans Show. I have had a huge week. This week, in the space of 3 days, I had 5 different conferences, speaking at them. In some instances for hours at a time. I loved it. It was a fantastic start to the year. I started out at Yeronga State High School here in Brisbane. Then I went over to Brisbane South State Secondary College, again here in Brisbane. The next day I drove 3.5, almost 4 hours, first thing in the morning, to a place just out of Brisbane called Chinchilla, west from Brisbane, 4 hours west. And I spoke to the teachers of 6 different schools, like the local cluster. And I gave them a 2-hour presentation. And then that evening I stuck around, and in the local community hall, I had all local parents come, and I did another presentation then as well. So I had to drive back that night, 4 hours. And then I was up again first thing in the morning, and I delivered a keynote at the Educators Conference for 2026 to 1,000 teachers. That was fantastic. I had an absolutely amazing time at that conference. And I've actually been really working on tweaking my superpower keynote, really making it appropriate for adults. Obviously, this is how I explain it. It's one story, right? But it's told differently to suit the different audience. When it's like keeping the meat the same, but swapping out the veggies. It's the same story. It's the same meat, the same protein. I just change up the garnish to be more appropriate for the palate. So if it's prep kids, there's a lot of interchangeable stuff and there's a lot of silly behavior. And then for the adults, it's almost, I change my delivery, really. And I take a few things out as well, just because nobody wants to sit there and feel like they're being treated like a child or being spoken to like a kid. Anyway, so I've done a lot of rearranging and rechanging. So it has been a huge, awesome start to 2026. But I thought I'd make an episode on parenting Neuro-Spicy kids when I do my naughty or neurodiverse workshop, which is typically done after a school books me, and I do the parents and the teachers in the one session. And it's a really great opportunity for parents and teachers to kind of have a bit of a masterclass and just kind of spitball ideas, put questions and situations, and I will field them to the best of my ability, but I'm more so open and up to the rest of the group. And I'm a bit of a mediator, a facilitator, as they kind of come to their own conclusions. Sometimes what I've learned is talking about it solves 50% of the problem. It's like there's an ancient Chinese proverb, I believe it is, where it says, writing down the problem, it's already 50% solved. Along those lines, I don't know, it's one of those wise people who said this. So I find when I get a group of people all together and they're all discussing either one student, one child, or a situation, diagnosis, symptoms, whatever it might be, collectively, we come to a conclusion. And that's when I see those light bulb moments. And I got a lot of questions from parents. How do I do this? How do I be a parent to my child who has ADHD, who has autism, who's neurodivergent or Neuro-Spicy, as people like to say? I get so many different questions from parents. And the main vibe of these questions are, how do I be a better parent? How do I make it stop? How do I swap roles? How do I make life easier for my child? I get it. I'm only 2 years into being a father, and yeah, it's hard. You take everything to heart. You feel guilty for every thing that is considered a mistake, but it's not a mistake. It's never your fault. But being a parent, you're responsible and you're in control, you're in charge, and it always falls back on you because you've got this huge responsibility to keep this little person alive and, to the best of your ability, give them an amazing path, an amazing life, and hopefully trouble and stress free. But the unfortunate truth is, we all experience difficult times. We all experience tough times, and we all go through SHIT all the time, right? It's just a normal thing. But as a parent, you don't want that to happen. You want to stop it at all costs. So a lot of the times I would get questions like, my kid's got Tourettes. How do I parent them? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a weighted question. And obviously, I can't tell a parent how to parent, but I can purely just share my own experiences because I've been parented and having parents and having Tourette's. I can share what I liked and what I didn't like. And looking back now as an adult, I can share my own experiences of going, you know what, I think that did work. I think that didn't work. Even though I'm not a parenting expert, I know how I've been parented and I can only just give my own opinion. But at the core of the question, what I kind of understood, these parents, these mums are basically just saying, can you reassure me that I'm doing the right thing? Can you reassure me that can you reassure me that my child isn't going to talk about me in a psychologist's office when they're 30 years of age? Look, parenting full stop is hard. And the way I look at neurodiversity is that there's no such thing as neurotypical. Obviously, there's neurodivergent and there's neurotypical, blah, 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 blah. That's what the doctors in the white coats say. But the way I look at life and I look at people is that there's no such thing. Everybody's got a little bit of something in them. It's just their combination of some things doesn't have a name yet, right? It might have vodka, but they're not a espresso martini. They're a fire engine. I hope that makes sense to you. But the way I see it is everybody's got a little bit of something going on, right? A symptom, whether that's something that started from when they're a child and that's a characteristic that's really embedded into their personality and their behavioral problems, whether it's a response to trauma, whether it's purely just neurodivergence and having a different operating system, right? A little bit different to their brother or their sister or their neighbor or their classmate. Doesn't matter. Parenting is hard, full stop. And so what I would always say when a parent, I literally got this question and it was, I am a bit of a control freak and I know I need to take myself out of my child's day-to-day life a little bit and let them do it. I need to hand over control to them. And she asked me, what did your parents do that worked? And I said that they never spoke for me. My parents never introduced me on my behalf and told the people they're introducing me to that I have Tourette's. Like, this is Seamus, he's got Tourette's syndrome. Yeah, he's got Tourette's. So if you notice any ticking and like little twitch movements, that's just his Tourette's. We're going to ignore it. They never did that. They never did this disclaimer for me, okay? That was left up to me. They didn't say anything. And whenever people would notice and ask my parent would look at me and say, how do you want to answer that? And it was up to me to answer it however I wanted because they gave me the responsibility. They gave me the ownership. They handed it over to me. That's mine. That's mine to deal with. I know that as parents, we want to swap roles if our child is going through a difficult time. We want to be in their shoes. I'll take the difficult time. Like, I know, honestly, I pray to God every night. If anything dangerous, traumatic, accidental, whatever it might be, is going to happen to my daughter, put me in her place. I say it every night. I will happily swap places so I would be in the car accident instead of her. Obviously, that's like a parent's role. That's just what will happen. But one of the things my parents did really well is they gave me the ownership because you can't swap places. And a lot of the times I'll say to mums, I'll say, listen, I know you want to trade places with your child, but you can't. They're running the race. You're not. All you can do is stand at the sidelines with a cup of water at the checkpoint, like they're running the marathon and you're a spectator. All you can do is cheer them on and hand them water whenever they come past. That's all you can do. I always say there's two ways to live life if you are neurodivergent or neurospicy. Option one is never leave your room. Stay at home. Stay indoors. I'm embarrassed. I'm insecure. I'm scared. People are going to look at me. I can't do it. It's overwhelming. Yeah, then stay in your room. Never come out. That's option one. No, option number two, guess what? People are going to look at you. Get over it. Handle it. In order to do the second one, you need to build up your self-esteem. And because you are going to be stared at, looked at, considered weird, and a lot of the times that's your own insecurities popping up, assuming people are looking at you when secretly they're too worried about their own lives. They're too insecure themselves to really be pointing fingers at you. But the moral of the story is, yeah, you're going to cop it. Yes, people are going to look. Yes, people are going to laugh. Yes, you're going to get teased. Yes, people will think you're weird. Yes, that will happen. The only way you can get around it and get out of your room is if you polish your armor. You sharpen your armor, you buff out any of the scratches, you make it stronger, you take pride in your armor, and you sharpen your sword. Because guess what? You're going to war. It's going to happen. So you either stay in your room and you never leave, or you put your armor on and you get outside. And your parents, they can help you polish your armor and sharpen your sword. That's how it goes. You can't swap places, but instead, as a parent, you can shine your child's armor for when they get hit, metaphorically speaking. And a parent asked me, they said, well, how can I let them fall? Like, what can I do to allow them to make mistakes and fall? And again, I was like, wow, that's a really heavy question. But I thought, well, okay. I know. The best thing you can do is create a soft ground to fall on, because they're going to fall. Everyone falls, right? It's how you learn how to fly. You got to fall. What happens if I fall? But what happens if I fly? Like, you need to hit rock bottom. This is what I said in my previous episode I released last week. You have to hit rock bottom in order to grow and get up. And as a child, you've got to learn slight knocks and bumps. You've got to know what it feels like to scrape your knees so you know how to land properly. And as a parent, we have to allow our children to make those small little falls. The best thing we can do is to try and make the floor as soft, comfortable as possible. And we have to start from falling small, taking little leaps of faith, taking only little stumbles. And I tried to use this metaphorically in my answer. It's like, oh, okay, imagine falling off a chair. Okay, and then the next one's falling off the table. And then the next one after that is falling off the bookshelf. And then the next one up, this is metaphorically, obviously. And then the next one after that is falling off the roof. By the time they're falling off the roof, they've been conditioned to all of these falls, so to speak. So I remember coming to the conclusion, you never get better at flying, you get better at falling. You just get better at it. You get better at landing, you're more comfortable with falling, you're more developed, you're more conditioned, and you understand what it feels like to hit the ground. The other really important thing to remember is I actually got asked, because a mother put their hand up and explained a situation where their child had a breakdown because something, in the neurodivergent world, it's not always about the spilt milk, okay? I mean, that's in life in general. It's never about the spilt milk if you've got a breakdown. There's something bigger at play. But this particular child lost their hat, right, and had a breakdown. The rest of the afternoon was a write-off. Now, that's really common in neurodivergence is, something slightly out of order or out of whack. The whole day, finished. Full breakdown. And I had to kind of unpack that situation with him. And I said, okay, imagine if the next time this happens and we found out the reason why there was such a big meltdown is they didn't take their medication. So that's what happens unmedicated. And I said, okay, well, listen, we can't always go through life and always having your medication. One day you're going to miss it again. It's just always going to happen. Not every day, but eventually there will be another slip up. It is bound to happen. It's inevitable. So what we do in those moments of meltdown, of panic, as a parent, we can sit there instead of trying to get frustrated that we forgot the medication. Instead, we can sit there and help our child through this meltdown. And one of the techniques that I suggested was maybe we can say, okay, we're here. Now let's talk about the last time. Let's remember the last time this happened. Now, how long did you feel like this for? Okay, it was a long time. But do you remember when it ended? Yeah, it ended around dinner time. We started to calm down. Okay, well, it's 2:00 now. Dinner time's 5 hours away. So we've only got 5 hours of feeling like this. No worries. So what did we feel like? And what happened when we felt like this? Did we die? No. Did anyone else die? No. Did we get physically hurt? No. Okay, so you're not in pain and we know it's going to end. There are at least 2 things that we can relax a little bit because we've been here before. We know how to go through it again. Maybe, do we want to go for a ride? Do we want to watch TV? I mean, look, this requires patience. My daughter only today, she spilt a cup of water all over the bench and it went on my electric razor. I flipped my lid, man. I got angry. I was like, rah! Yeah, patience. I wish I had more. And I'm assuming you listening now or watching this, I bet you wish you had more. Patience, man, it's a virtue. That's what they always say, right? And in the moment, you've got your own problems. You've got your own childhood trauma. You've got your own frustrations. No such thing as being perfect. However, if we can sit in that moment and we do have that perfect scenario where we are patient and where we can actually help our child go through it and help unpack, let's run through the worst case scenario. Let's run through our scenario. How long did this last? When did it end? What was the worst experience? Okay, well, now we're there again. Let's see if we can make it shorter. Let's see if it's not as harsh. It seemed to be well received. And I always like to express, hey, listen, I'm not a psychologist. Okay, this is all just my own experiences. And like I said, encouraging people to kind of chime in with their examples. I think it's really important to let your child who's neurospicy, who's neurodivergent, who has a diagnosis, whether it is diagnosed or undiagnosed, to give them a voice and for them to be their own spokesperson and to build their self-esteem. If they feel they have the responsibility and they have the ownership over their brain and over their own experiences in life and their own social interactions, then they get to choose what they do with it. And once you become aware that you're in control of your own choices, then it unlocks opportunities because you get to choose your reaction. You get to choose how you interact. You get to choose your response. And when you have a giant list of different responses, different moods, and different choices in your arsenal, in your toolkit, then you can get strategic. And then you can start thinking, which choice will help me the most? Which choice benefits me? Which choice will help me on my path? Thinking like that requires self-esteem, requires confidence, and this belief that you deserve more. That is really important. And as a parent, I think the best thing that we can do is shovel mountains of self-esteem, mountains of confidence, mountains of ownership of who they are, and really empower them to say, you are perfect just the way you are. You deserve infinite abundance and greatness. You are successful. You will be successful, and champion them. Fully gaslight them into believing that they are destined for greatness and better than what they aspire to. We need to be really careful on this because sometimes when you're young and you have these aspirations of being a professional soccer player, statistically, it ain't going to happen. Okay. And I'm not talking about empower them to have big goals and aspirations and an unrealistic lifetime achievement. I mean instilling in them values to believe in themselves and really giving them the toolkit to puff up their own chest, not in an egotistical or arrogant way, but in a confident way, in a self-esteem, self-assured way, a way where they can, again, buff out their armor, shine their armor and sharpen their sword. So they're ready, they're match fit, they're ready to face the world. They can handle what life throws at them. Because let's face it, we all go through crap. You just get better at handling it. You get better at shoveling it. You get better at not letting it stick to you. But that requires self-esteem, resilience, confidence, and the belief that you are entitled to more. So I'm reading Think and Grow Rich at the moment. And this is written by Napoleon Hill. And this is essentially the secret to being wealthy, the secret to being successful, the secret to being rich. I'm also listening to the book from Steve Harvey, the comedian in America. And it's called Think Like a Success, Act Like a Success. Both are saying the same thing. Believe in yourself, pursue your gifts, and have a vision. And have a mantra and say it over every single day to yourself. And eventually you believe it. You know how we come across people who are they believe their own BS? Well, we have to believe our own BS as long as it's positive BS, because eventually if you keep lying to yourself and saying, you are confident, man, you are capable, you can do this. Did you know that you are actually capable of achieving greatness? Did you know you can ask for that pay rise? Do you know you can go for that job? Do you know you can actually go and ask that person out to be to go on a date with you. You actually can write that book. You can run that marathon. You can. If you tell yourself you can enough, you're going to believe it, which will make you take that first step. Okay? That first step is all you need, because confidence is your inner knowledge of your own capabilities. And if you've taken that one very small first step, that is all you need to tell yourself, hey, I've taken that step. Maybe I can take another step, and then another step, and then another step. Before you know it, you've climbed Mount Everest. It takes a while, but you've got to inflate your own chest before you can take that step. And as a parent, the best thing we can do is allow our children to fall, scrape their knees metaphorically, and face life and what it has in store for us, both the positive and the negative, but empower them, champion them, and encourage them and inspire them. Polish their armor, sharpen their sword, send them out there into the front line, and be on the sidelines ready for when they come back. Feed them, clothe them, give them something to drink, kiss their boo-boos, and send them back out again. The only way, that's it. Parenting is hard. And parenting a neurodivergent child can be very stressful, and it can have an impact on you as a parent. So maybe try and treat yourself how you wish you could treat your child. Look after yourself, because you will make mistakes. But as long as you're doing your best job, as long as you're putting in your best effort, as long as you are giving it everything you've got, that's all that matters. You need to remind yourself that you're actually giving it a crack. You're actually putting in the hard yards. And that's you need to look after yourself, because your efforts and attention are needed from your child. I talk to so many parents who share their story after I get off stage. They come up to me and say, listen, you know, my child just got a diagnosis, or I'm seeing tics in my child, or my child's getting bad grades because they've got ADHD, they can't sit still, they don't like school. And they really relate, and they just kind of say, look, you know, how do I get them to know that it's going to be okay, because they're a little bit down on themselves? The only way that you can let them know that their life is going to be okay is by letting them, bit by bit, slowly, safely, and gently expose them to new situations that reinforce, hey, that was actually okay. That wasn't that bad. Exposure therapy is very, very helpful. It builds confidence, it builds self-esteem, and it provides you with a track record of success. Something you can look back at and go, actually, that wasn't as hard as I thought. That wasn't as bad as I thought. I suggested something to a parent a little while ago about a child who was so scared and worried about what the students at school would think of them and how to kind of reduce their anxiety. And I said, okay, why don't we write a giant list of every sentence, comment, insult that you think students are going to say to you or at you, or any situation, and write it. And you know what? Get creative. What is it going to be? And they wrote down all these different situations. They'll call me this, I'll do this. Oh, they might walk in there. They might say it this when I'm doing that. Whatever it is, right? Just write them down. And then each one, sit there and come up with a solution, come up with a response, come up with an answer, come up with how you're going to feel in that moment, and how you want to react, and come up with multiple versions. And what that does is it prepares them for the inevitable. So when it does happen, they've got 3 responses ready to go. You know how annoying it is when you're driving away from work and you had an altercation or a situation and someone said a comment to you at work, and hours later you've got the response, I should have said this. That moment is gone. You'll never get it back, right? It always happens later. But what if you can prepare for that and have in your toolkit 3 responses to what someone could say to you that is embarrassing, that affects your self-esteem, that's a comment that knocks you for the rest of the day and gives you a complex. If you had 3 sentences, 3 responses ready to go, you would be itching to use them. And you would feel confident going in on a daily basis to different situations, because you're ready, you're equipped, and you're prepared. Your armor is sharp, your armor has been shined. Your sword has been sharpened. You are ready to go. And so they wrote down this giant list and then wrote down all these different responses. And it reduced the anxiety because once they looked at what people could say, well, it kind of takes the punch away, doesn't it? It takes the force out of the punch because you've already seen it. It's not a shock to you to hear it. And then they've got the responses ready to go. And they felt relaxed. They felt their heightened state reduced, their anxiety slowed down, and it was really helpful. So if you're a parent listening to this, or you're a child listening to this, whatever it might be, if you're listening to this and you are worried about the future with your child, with you and a diagnosis, or situations that you have no idea how they're going to go and they're nerve-wracking, I would suggest write them down. Write the worst case scenario, what's the likely scenario, and how you would feel in all of them, and what your next choice is. I came across a quote only today. Ask yourself, who are you and how do you want to behave? And this is a really great question to put forward, to say you can behave like anyone. You can have the characteristics of any ideal person and personality that you so desire. You can actually pick and choose. And if you have a little bit of forethought and think, I am this person, this is who I am, these are my values, these are my strengths, this is how I want to behave, this is how I want to conduct myself. And you actually create a little bit of a blueprint of certain behaviors, characteristics, and choices that align with who it is that you want to be and who it is that you are, and the person inside that's just itching to come out. You will be faced with situations where you actually make those choices. Choices, the best thing about a choice is that you've always got one to make. Don't worry about making the right choice, just make your choice the right one. And the good news is, if you make the wrong choice, you've got another opportunity to make it the right one. I would love to know in the comments in this video, or if you can have comments in a podcast. Remember, I'm only new to the podcast world, on whatever platform that you're consuming this on. I'd love to know what kind of tips, realizations, anything that you've learned, some lessons, some aha light bulb moments, parenting a Neuro-Spicy child, or if you are neurodivergent, how did you like getting parented? What did they do right? And what did they do wrong? Share this. Write down your comment in the section, because hopefully people who read it can learn from you. You can make an impact right now by sharing your experiences, because look, we all learn from others. Books are written by other people. Movies are made by other people. People do keynotes on stage because that comes from their own life experiences. We learn from others. So this is your opportunity to share what you've learned to the wider community and to the wider world. So don't pass that opportunity up. Share it, write the comment, and I'd love some support on this episode if you like and subscribe. Have a fantastic day, and thanks for listening.